He had kids, he had family, he was a brother, a father, and a son. My parents are broken.
Tonight, the family of a missing Blackfoot man whose death is now deemed suspicious is calling for justice.
It was great to see healthy, happy dogs starving for human attention.
Canine rescue efforts underway on a First Nation in Manitoba ravaged by wildfires.
For him to go to the Worlds, you know, it's unbelievable in the first place, so it would really be nice to be able to watch him.
And a Special Olympics athlete competing at the Worlds in Russia next year hopes to have his family there to cheer him on. Good evening and welcome to APTN National News. I'm Daryl Stranger. In southern Alberta, the case of a missing Blackfoot man has now become an investigation of a suspicious death, according to the RCMP Major Crimes Unit. The body of Lane Tailfeathers was found in the Crow's Nest Pass area on July 20th. He was reported missing in late June. Friends and family of Tailfeathers held a vigil in Fort Macleod where he was last seen. His sister Billy J. Heavyshield says it's been a difficult month searching for her brother, but now he can be laid to rest.
He had kids, he had family, he was a brother, a father, and a son. My parents are broken. All our whole family is. This is not the outcome we wanted. We just want answers. We want justice for our brother, and we're going to get justice.
The controversial Muskrat Falls hydro project is getting a $2 billion injection of cash. Prime Minister Trudeau met Newfoundland and Labrador Premier Andrew Furey today to announce the deal. The agreement in principle is to help the province move towards green energy. Construction costs ballooned from $7 billion to over $13 billion, promising high electricity rates for consumers. Muskrat Falls was also met with backlash from Indigenous communities. They said the project threatened the ecosystem, and yesterday the Innu Nation in Labrador said they were not consulted about today's announcement. The federal government will provide a federal loan guarantee of $1 billion, with the other billion being portrayed as an investment in infrastructure to carry the power south.
We've worked for a number of months on some really big issues together, including the issue of Muskrat Falls. And on that front, I can announce that we've landed agreements with the Government of Newfoundland and Labrador that will ensure financial sustainability of the project while protecting people from major electricity increases. There's always...
Federal NDP leader Jagmeet Singh is currently on a week-long tour of Indigenous communities. It comes as a federal election is widely expected to be called in the coming weeks. For more, we're joined by Jagmeet Singh. Mr. Singh, thanks for joining us today. You just visited Northern Ontario, including wildfire evacuees in Thunder Bay and Neskantaga First Nation, home of Canada's longest boil water advisory. What sticks out to you from those visits?
In Neskantaga, I met with B and Lyndon. These are two young people. B is about 10 years old, Lyndon maybe a little older, 12 or 13. And they are young kids who are fighting for clean drinking water. B said, I'm a 10-year-old girl fighting for clean water. Does that make sense? And I thought about myself. When I was 10 years old, I was not fighting for clean drinking water. I was just turning on my tap. The fact that these kids have to fight for clean drinking water, the fact that Lyndon had to say, we're also humans. We're not animals. We're humans too. These are kids pleading for basic human rights. And there is no excuse. Having seen the community, having met with the people, there is no excuse that in the 21st century, as one of the world's largest economies, that we can't make sure every community in this country has clean drinking water. This is a national shame. And Mr. Trudeau promised to bring in clean drinking water 6 years ago, broke his promise, and now setting another 5-year deadline. 11 years is just wrong. It is far too long for communities to wait. It's really a lack of will. And meeting these people, meeting the community, hearing their pain, hearing their anguish, I promise to bring their voice forward and to continue to fight for them.
So why have you embarked on what your team has called a week-long tour of Indigenous communities?
Well, I wanted to build on the momentum we've seen across Canada. People in a show of solidarity were shocked and devastated by the discovery of the unmarked graves. And those numbers keep on increasing of kids, little kids found in graves unmarked graves at residential institutions. And so with that momentum, people are saying, you know what, it's not enough for us to just grieve and be shocked. We need to do something about it. And so I want to turn that desire for action into reality. And so we're meeting with communities to, again, call for the human rights that they're demanding, call for clean drinking water, call for implementing all the calls to action. I was at a sharing circle in Thunder Bay where Indigenous communities, in honor of the first 215 kids found in Kamloops, were going through healing because of the trauma. And I met with survivors and kids of survivors and grandkids of survivors who shared with me the intergenerational trauma and how real that is, how direct that is, how that ravages communities and people. And so I'm committed to fighting for real action, not just the words in the show that we saw with Justin Trudeau, but real steps to actually walk the path of reconciliation.
So with an election call expected, how much focus do you anticipate Indigenous issues will receive during the campaign?
I'll make sure it receives a lot of attention. We know that the climate crisis with the forest fires, the climate fires, is a real concern for people. And we know that Indigenous communities are among the communities that are hardest hit. They feel the impacts of the climate crisis first. A lot of the remote communities I've spoken with in the past are directly impacted by the winter conditions. The lack of cold winters mean there's not enough winter roads, or winter roads aren't in effect for long enough to bring in supplies. They feel that impact directly. The forest fires, the climate fires are more so impacting Indigenous communities because they live in the communities that are impacted. So the climate crisis, Indigenous rights and justice, these are very important for all Canadians, and I want to continue to do what I can to raise the awareness and to fight for justice.
All right, Mr. Singh, I want to thank you for taking a few minutes to speak with us today.
Thanks for having me. My honor to be here. Thank you.
We want to hear what you think about Jugmeet touring Indigenous communities and a potential fall election. Here's how to continue the conversation. Send your emails to news@aptn.ca or leave a comment on aptnnews.ca. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and now TikTok. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. We have to take a short break, but still to come, dogs left behind due to wildfires in Manitoba are being brought to Winnipeg. Welcome back. A group of canines from northern Manitoba landed safely just outside Winnipeg yesterday. The dogs were airlifted from Pungassi First Nation as forest fires are ravaging the area. Michelle Karlenzig has the details.
So yeah, we went under a house to get these guys and the mom.
Melanie Chudik pulled these week-old puppies from underneath a deck in a community engulfed with smoke. She's part of a group that airlifted 18 dogs from Pungassi First Nation to Winnipeg yesterday. The First Nation community was evacuated weeks ago due to forest fires in the area, but couldn't bring dogs with them. Chudik and her team at Manitoba Animal Alliance say the situation on the ground in Pungassi is dire.
It was very smoky. We couldn't see the sun all day. It was just haze, and we could smell it all day. So a lot of us were saying that we were having a hard time breathing.
The rescue team looked through every house in the community and says all things considered, the dogs were in great shape.
We didn't find very many ill, which was really good.
While being evacuated, Raina Knott had to leave her dog Annie behind and was reunited yesterday at the landing spot.
Yes, I didn't even tell my daughter yet that she's here because she was so worried about, now I'm going to lose Annie again because she lost her other dog, Jojo.
Manitoba Animal Alliance and shelters across Winnipeg partnered with custom helicopter pilots. It's just one of many trips they plan to make as they weren't able to bring every dog back. However, Chudik says today's rescue was a success.
And it was great to see healthy, happy dogs starving for human attention.
Pungassi is just one of 5 Manitoba communities evacuated this summer due to forest fires. Anyone looking to foster or send donations should visit the Manitoba Animal Alliance Facebook page. Michelle Karlenzig, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Now for a follow-up to a story we reported earlier this year. 2 councillors from a Yukon First Nation resigned from their positions, and now another councillor has stepped down, and they're not keeping quiet about it. Sarah Connors has the details on what caused the most recent departure.
Vuntut-Gwitchin First Nation in Old Crow is having a hard time hanging on to councillors. In fact, 7 have left in just the past 2.5 years since Dana Tija Tram was elected chief in 2018. The most recent councillor, Marilyn Charlie, resigned on June 28th and took to social media to explain why. She says there's a clear lack of communication within council, in the administration, in the departments, and in the community, and a toxic workplace environment because of lateral violence. Only Tija Tram Deputy Chief Paul Josie and Councillor Tracy Rispin remain in office. Rispin is currently on medical leave, though she still exercises authority on council. The Vuntut-Gwitchin government will hold a by-election for 2 councillors on August 16th. I reached out to the Vuntut-Gwitchin government for comment. They say they're not speaking to media, but did give me a press release stating the numerous resignations have taken a toll on the community, though it didn't get into specifics. Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
A woman from Buffalo Point First Nation and Winnipeg says she is stuck and penniless in Morocco with her 2 sons. Carrie Kobenis has issued a plea for help on social media, saying her life is in danger. APTN's Christopher Reed has more.
After a brutal assault in her Morocco home, Carrie Kobenis says she's ready to come back to Canada. We reached Kobenis in Casablanca, and she told us about trying unsuccessfully to get help from the Canadian Embassy.
I've been to the Canadian Embassy as far as getting help and support financially to get home with both my children, and I was denied the regional loan that the Canadian government offered Canadian citizens to return to Canada during COVID-19 and the pandemic.
Her plight has been receiving a boost in attention after TikTok user Sherry McKay encouraged her followers to support a GoFundMe started by Kobenis.
Now, instead of us being like, you put yourself there, you can get yourself out. No, that's not what we're going to do. She is trying to raise $7,000 to come back to Canada with her 2 sons. Her one son has medical conditions and nothing is covered there.
Kobenis says she has been in contact with the Assembly of First Nations as well as Buffalo Point First Nation, but so far no financial assistance has reached her.
I'm not hopeful. I have been trying to reach out for months and months to my leaders back home with the hopes that my people would help me. I don't feel hopeful, and I don't feel like the leaders back home are taking my situation seriously.
APTN News has reached out to both the AFN and Buffalo Point First Nation, but have not heard back. Christopher Reed, APTN National News.
Now, since this story was put together, APTN News has received word from Carrie Kobenis that assistance from the AFN and the Canadian Embassy is being worked on. In July 1921, community members in Delaney, Northwest Territories canoed down the Great Bear River to join their Mountain Dene relatives and sign Treaty 11. 100 years later, the Sawtooth Dene are recreating that same trip on the water to honor ancestors. Our reporter Charlotte Moore-Jacobs paddled the 135 kilometers with them to learn what they are choosing to celebrate. Here's part 2 of the Treaty 11 series.
It's an exhilarating feeling, canoeing 135 kilometers down Sawtooth, Great Bear River, Northwest Territories. But the journey is just as important as the destination.
We usually pay water in the land.
That's Verna Tanaton in the front and her son Troy in the back. They're canoeing the river together for the first time. They join 40 others paddling from Delaney to Toledo to participate in the 100th year anniversary celebrations of the signing of Treaty 11.
What kind of things would be important for the next 100 years?
But talking in our language and going on. So I don't think they'll be doing that in 100 years too much.
Lemuria Trail. This is where he did all his work.
The Sawtooth Dene have been preserving traditional knowledge. Jimmy Dillon, at 81, he's the elder for the job, guiding paddlers and sharing stories passed down from his own father and grandfather.
I'm training these guys. They're going to take over. They're going to be my hunters. That's where we are. Dene people. The older guy knows all the country. The young ones that are coming up have to be trained.
Back in the day, folks from Delaney would travel to Sawtooth with dried fish to trade. and to participate in annual gatherings in Toledo. And they'd camp at places like this, Bennett's Field.
It feels good to be here, like emotionally and mentally and spiritually. It feels so good.
The trip also has a lot of strong youth, like Danielle Takaso.
We were there for thousands and thousands of years, like our ancestors are buried all around. We do encourage visitors and inviting and welcoming people to come so we can show them what we see and what we feel.
She sees it as an opportunity to learn more about treaty.
Our people were there, a lot of witnesses were there, a lot of them gone, a lot of them still here, not here, but some of them who know more. And I think it's important that we are informed and somehow.
Just like Sawtoo elders who negotiated for health care, education, and supports during the signing of Treaty 11, Delaney-Gotney government is taking care of their own. In 2015, they signed a self-government agreement, one of the first to do so in the NWT. Takazo just landed a job as a coordinator for Delaney's first youth council.
We're going to be changing history, right? Because like the DDG government, right? Like we're not written in there, right? Like on paper, but I think in due time when we are strong, we will be.
It takes teamwork to go through the 11-kilometer stretch of rapids. For Grand Chief Wilbert Cochon, it's a personal journey.
When you're traveling, you talk to the land, and the land would help you out. And there's a couple of them that I'm doing it for, and then myself, and a lot of young people are struggling. So I want to see, when I travel with young people, and see what they really want.
Cochon says his elders told him, when you live on the land, it's your livelihood.
I always see the 100 years to celebrate the past leaders, not really how government really treat us, but then I always think about we're still here and we're doing a lot of things better because of them signing in 1921 and they never sold the land, the peace treaty, and that's what people need to see it.
Well, this summer marks 100 years for the signing of Treaty 11. 100! The Sawtoo Dene also keep count. Each time they dip their paddle in the water and arrive on the shores in peace and friendship. Charlotte Moritz-Jacobs, APTN National News, Toledo.
All right, we have to take one final break, but stick around. Our photo of the day is next. Welcome back. It's time now for our photo of the day. Our viewer Danny Smith sent us this beautiful shot of the sun peeking through the clouds and over the skyline of the mountains located near Dease Lake, British Columbia. For the chance to be featured as our photo of the day, send your pictures to share@aptn.ca and include details along with it, and tune in each day to see if you're our next photo of the day. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting in the east, 23 in sun in Charlottetown and 25 in Fredericton. 15 in rain in Cartwright and 18 in Happy Valley Goose Bay. 23 in sunshine in Quebec City and 24 in sun in Montreal. 26 in a mix of sun and cloud in Toronto and 24 in Sault Ste. Marie. 18 in rain in Timmins and 23 in rain in Sioux Lookout. 22 in a mix of sun and cloud in God's Lake and 24 in Norway House. 28 in sun in Gimli and 29 in Winnipeg. 30 in sunshine in Estevan and 27 in Saskatoon. 21 in sun in Stony Rapids and 24 in Buffalo Narrows. Over in the west, 25 in a mix of sun and cloud in Fort McMurray and 25 in Peace River. 26 in sun in Calgary and 28 in Edmonton. 35 in sunshine in Penticton and 29 in Quesnel. 24 in Dease Lake, and 27 in sun in Fort Nelson. 22 degrees in Whitehorse and 22 in Dawson. 21 in rain in Yellowknife and 24 in Fort Simpson. 17 in rain in Colville Lake and 22 in Fort McPherson. 13 in rain in Baker Lake and 11 in Chesterfield. 5 degrees in Resolute and 14 in sun in Iqaluit. A Special Olympics athlete from Manitoba will be competing in the 2022 World Winter Games in Russia, and he's raising funds to have his mom and twin sister join him as well. Here's that story. William Hart will be competing in Russia at the 2022 Special Olympic World Winter Games. The 18-year-old from Nelson House in northern Manitoba will be competing in alpine skiing this year, but he's also competed in past games in other sports, including swimming and figure skating. William is excited to get the chance to compete as an Aboriginal youth.
William, what did you write when you said, what did you say? That it's pretty crazy that a young youth, Aboriginal youth,
would actually go to the world, or they get such an opportunity. Not a lot of First Nation children actually get to go to like big sports like the Olympics or even the Worlds for that matter.
While athletes are guaranteed travel and accommodation to and from games, family is not. So William is doing what he can to get his mom Marlene and twin sister Jemiah to join him in Russia. He's asking for any extra air miles and is doing a Chase the Ace 50-50 draw to raise money. Marlene said if she's able to join him, it would mean the world.
Oh, that would be very important. I mean, for him to go to the Worlds, it's unbelievable in the first place. So it would really be nice to be able to watch him and cheer him on, to see him. This is a major thing. So I just think it's very important to cheer him on and be there and be emotional support for him.
Until the games begin, William is training almost daily to keep himself ready. Surfers in California had some sharp-toothed visitors while riding the waves. Check out this drone footage from just off Solano Beach, north of San Diego. Local reports say the 11 sharks hanging out in the warm waters were juvenile great whites. Sightings are becoming more frequent as waters warm and preservation efforts continue. Well, that is a scary sight, and I know I would not be going near that water. That's all we have for you tonight on APTN National News. For news anytime, visit our website at aptnnews.ca. I'm Daryl Stranger. Have a great night.